Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football, calling my shot on some breakout candidates for this USC program going into 2025. And look, this episode is going to tick off a lot of USC fans. And quite frankly, it was ticking off me while I was prepping it because I wanted to include so many different names. I mean, you look at year two with the Danton Lynn defense, you look at some of the transfer portal additions USC has made. We could go 45 minutes with players that I think could break out for USC going into 2025. I limited it to only 5 players. I did not include true freshmen in the conversation. We're going to do a separate conversation regarding the true freshmen coming in. I think it got a solid five group of players. Most importantly to the USC fans, let it fly in the comment section. If you're a USC fan that's checking out an episode like this in the middle of February, there's no doubt in my mind. Y'all got some players that you have in mind for breakout candidates. Let it fly in the comment section. The players that you throw in the comment section are the players we're going to be talking about during spring practice and fall camp. Appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, let's get into it. And let's start with the football player that, one, I'm a massive fan of, and two, represents one of the things I'm most excited for regarding this USC defense. Now, number one is the defensive line. 12 months ago, this defensive line was a disaster. Wasn't talented enough, certainly wasn't big enough, certainly wasn't deep enough. You fast forward to how we talk about this USC defensive line going into 2025, it's surely the best unit on the defensive side of the football. That's what gets me excited, number one. Number two, athleticism at linebacker. It's just something USC did not have in the 2024 year, especially when Eric Gentry went out with the injury. Mason Cobb, Easton Mascarenas, Arnold, we've talked about it all offseason. They're shorter. They're a little bit slower. It's very hard to have an elite defense in this modern era of college football where offenses are trying to get their speed out in space and test if you can go run and tackle. It's hard to be an elite defense when you have linebackers like Mason Cobb and Easton Mascarenas Arnold that they're just not the athletes you need in this modern era. And I know that sounds hard on guys like Mason Cobb and Easton Mascarenas Arnold. I just think it's a fact. You look at going into 2025, yeah, Eric Gentry doesn't get much, longer and faster and athletic than him, but he's not really a breakout guy. He was playing like an All-American linebacker before the injury. Desmond Stevens, 6'3", 240 pounds. I was stunned in terms of how well he played as a true freshman, given the fact that coming out of high school, he was playing wide receiver and cornerback. Puts on the weight, makes the move to the off-ball linebacker spot. It wasn't exactly smooth sailing. You could tell he was a freshman out there at times. That length, that kind of athleticism, now going year two in the Danton Lynn defense, sign me up for Desmond Stevens and Eric Gentry really being a dynamic linebacker duo heading into 2025, playing behind a defensive line that's going to be much better. Buy your stock in Desmond Stevens because it might go to the moon in 2025. That's another thing worth noting. Year two in the Danton Lynn defense. I don't know if we talked probably a little bit about it in the intro here. When you get defenses going into year two with the same defensive coordinator, you inherently see a bump. Year one with a new defensive scheme, especially one that's pretty damn complicated with Dan Lynn, especially compared to what Alex Grinch was doing beforehand, you see players sometimes thinking and not playing, which happens when you have a new defensive scheme. Going into year two, it's less thinking, more going out and playing. You normally see just players get better inherently year two in the system. I think you're going to see that with Desmond Stevens because that kind of that double whammy. Like, hey, year two with Dan Lynn, year two also being a college football player, all the athletic traits that you're looking for an off-ball linebacker. The linebacker room concerns me a little with depth, but I look at Desmond Stevens and Eric Gentry. I think they're going to be studs. Going to number two, and a guy that you could argue, and I'm kind of stretching the breakout term here, Cam Fountain coming off the edge. You look at Cam Fountain, he was second on the team in quarterback hurries as a true freshman for USC in 2024. He was second on the team with quarterback hurries, not really having played any football until that game against Rutgers. and then he pretty much started the rest of the way out, was elite as a true freshman. This is the time we see guys take a step, especially along the line of scrimmage. Year 1 to year 2. Cam found not only a really good pass rusher, but really became probably USC's best pass rusher towards the end of the season. Hammer against the run. 6'6", 265, sets the edge really well, is not afraid to take on blocks and hold his ground, can get off blocks and make plays. We never talk about it when we talk about edge rushers. The first thing we always look for is sack production, what you can do rushing the passer. Look, if you want to sack the quarterback, you got to stop the run first. Put yourself in those third and long positions where you can pin your ears back and get after the passer in those obvious passing downs. Cam Fountain can do it both. You might be looking at one of the better edge rushers you see in the Big Ten. Number 3, I'm going to go to the offensive side of the football. We're going to talk about Xavier Jordan, who you didn't really hear much from as a freshman. And I think that was a product of, you had a guy like Deuce Robinson, you had a guy like Zachariah Branch, not to mention Jacoby Lane and Mekhi Lemon, and it felt like we were really forcing the issue with Zachariah Branch and Deuce Robinson. Hey, these 5-star really talented pass catchers, got to get them on the football field, got to give them the targets. We didn't really see Xavier Jordan much. You have your 2 leading receivers, and Jacoby Lane and Mekhi Lemon. You can just pick one of the 2. They're going to be leading this team in receiving yards come the end of 2025. The question here is, who are going to be the role players in 2025 with this USC passing attack? You could throw in Jay Fair. You could throw in some true freshmen. To me, it looks like Xavier Jordan. He is he reminded me of Jordan Addison coming out of high school. It's not necessarily the size speed combination is elite, although he can certainly run. The pacing, the route running, the ability to accelerate, decelerate, get in and out of your breaks and create separation. That's what's there about Xavier Jordan. Very similar to how we talked about Mekhi Lemon last year. Mekhi Lemon was the most slept on wide receiver at this point last year because he wasn't the freak of nature that Deuce Robinson was. He wasn't the speedster that Zachariah Branch was. But as an overall wide receiver, he was by far the best wide receiver on that football team going into the 2024 year. To me, Xavier Jordan, very similar kind of pass catcher where he's not going to wow you with the 10-5 and the 100-meter dash. He's not going to wow you at only 5'11". But, man, is he coming out of high school, I should say, was such a polished pass catcher. You're looking for that wide receiver 3. Yeah, it could be Jay Fair. It could be some true freshmen. It could be Prince coming in through the portal from Boise State. To me, it's going to be Xavier Jordan. Love this kid coming out. Was disappointed we didn't get to see him a ton as a true freshman. I'm not selling my stock. I'm buying stock going into 2025. Number 4 on the list, we're going to go to another redshirt freshman that I thought was going to play a bigger role in 2024, but didn't, is Marcel Williams. Another one very similar to Xavier Jordan. He's not going to wow you with the crazy length, crazy speed, although he does run an 11-second 100-meter dash. Really, really polished coming from St. John Bosco. And you look at the cornerback room, and to me, it's there for the pickings. You bring in a guy like DJ Harvey, DeCarlos Nicholson comes back for another year. Those kind of guys are not irreplaceable. I think Marcellus Williams, with a really big year 2 offseason, can be a starting cornerback for USC. In fact, I would probably look for him to be a starter in 2024 or 2025, that is. I like DJ Harvey, but the USC cornerback last year to me wasn't exactly good enough, and you could tell Danton Lynn did not exactly trust some of those boundary cornerbacks. He played a lot of off coverage, a lot of soft zone, because I don't think he trusted his cornerbacks to play some of that press man and play a little bit more aggressive. Can you get Marcellus Williams to not only become potentially a cornerback 1 for this USC defense, but could you get Marcellus Williams to emerge as a cornerback that Danton Lynn can be more aggressive with than what he was with the cornerbacks in the 2024 year? Last one on the list, you could argue he's a breakout player, maybe not. To me, it's Elijah Page. And why I'm saying he's a breakout player is because he was solid. He was solid for USC left tackle his redshirt freshman year. This kid can be an All-American. And quite frankly, he was low-key playing like an All-American towards the back half of 2024. Elijah Page gave up 28 total quarterback pressures in the 2024 year. It's not a great number. It's not a bad number for a redshirt freshman starting a left tackle, but it's not a great number. He only gave up 4 quarterback pressures his last 3 games. He was playing very good football towards the end of 2024. Can he continue that progression? Look, this is the progression. I was trying to find the word progression of Elijah Page during his career. Can he stay on that? I'm pointing up here. Can he stay on that path going into year 3? Because if he is, he ain't going to be back in 2026. He's going to be going in the NFL draft as a first-round pick. Checks all the boxes. Phenomenal athlete for someone who is 6'7" with the length and size that he has. We have some question marks about the depth on the offensive line, but in terms of your starting guys, you feel kind of good about what the starting 5 is going to look like minus that right tackle spot. But you got a dog at left tackle with Elijah Page. And the reason I'm saying he's a breakout guy is because there's another level in his game that he can reach. There's another level of consistency that he can reach. Look, he got his butt handed to him a little bit early, especially like that Michigan game. But, man, did he get better in 2025 or 2024. And I think he's going to be a stud in the 2025 year. I got to end with just some honorable mentions here. I thought Alani Noah played some better football down the stretch in 2024. I want to include Brian Jackson at running back, a guy that showed some things in that bowl game against Texas A&M. Very well could be a leading rusher. In fact, I would probably bet my money that he's going to be running back 1 heading into the season. And that's not a shot at guys like Eli Sanders. You could go to a lot, and you could go to guys like Devin Tompkins on the defensive line who got massively 2024. That was a brand new Devin Tompkins. What does it look like with 1 more year? What about Gita Abasari? I mean, there's a lot of cats on this football team that could be breakout players, and that's the storyline that we're talking about in spring practice and fall camp. But who are the guys that take that step with the coaching staff? Then, man, I don't. Do you see, especially on the defensive side of football, do we have a better defensive coaching staff in the country than what USC has rocking into 2025? Look for some development. Look for a lot of breakout players. We'll pause it there. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later.